Hola y bienvenidos al Palante Nonprofits Podcast. Soy su host, Dr. Andrea Ortega, trabajando con organizaciones sin fines de lucro en Estados Unidos. I'm so excited to highlight our nonprofit leaders, change makers, and other philanthropists in our sector. Bienvenidos. Today's guest, welcome, bienvenidos a Palante Nonprofits. Today's guest is Britney Frazier, and she's dedicated her career strengthening people and organizations that strengthen communities. She serves as a director of nonprofit capacity and leadership at Allegany Franciscan Services, a role that puts her at the intersection of organizational health and sustainability and mission driven. And one, I'm a huge fan on LinkedIn. We actually got the chance to have coffee too, and some of my clients work very closely with Allegany, but I just really love how she looks at rest, wellness, sabbatical, and the role that that plays in what these leaders in organizations like. And so I'm so excited to have her in here. And I don't know if I missed anything. And Brittany, do you want to do a quick intro?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. As stated, Brittany, I am serving as a director of nonprofit capacity. I've been in this role for about 2 years, but I've been with Allegany Franciscan Ministries for about 9 years. I started out as a fellow with the organization. We are very unique because we're a part of a healthcare system. It is a faith-based healthcare system, so we're one of the Mission Health Ministries, and I started out after graduating from UCF, go Knights, doing that fellowship program, and I've just grown with the organization over the last 9 years. It has been a very rewarding career, and I'm really excited about the work that I'm actually doing right now for the organization.
I love it. And let's tap right into that because I think people need to know. I work with a lot of leaders who come from a scarcity mindset. Some orgs do amazing work and they don't even pay themselves, get alone pay. And then they don't even like take their PTO, or when they take PTO, they have to feel like they're always on because the work never stops, right? Especially the orgs I work with now, like there's like ice response, here in Florida, there's specific like heat factors, there's laws and policies constantly, affecting the work that they do. And so, your work in this sector, really kind of tackles that. When did you personally start to question the narrative for leaders and what shifted for you?
Good question. So, as a philanthropic, I am privy to many stories. I get the opportunity to hear stories from nonprofit executive leaders across the state of Florida. We work primarily in 6 counties, but we also do strategic work in the Central Florida area as well as North Florida. So, because of my role helping organizations build their capacity, they're often calling me to check in and to share stories that they're dealing with. But along my leadership journey, I had the opportunity to serve as a leader for a volunteer-driven civic engagement organization. And until I had the opportunity to actually step in their shoes, I was like, whoa, this is not as glamorous as I thought it was, right? And transparently, being a millennial, I think the way in which we show up in leadership looks different from other generations. And with my public health background, we are taught to get to the root of the issue. And with that training and being in a leadership role at a young age, I often question things like, why are we doing things this way? This practice isn't really conducive to the progress of the organization. And just having the experience of working alongside other leaders and realizing that that particular leadership role did not necessarily align with the lifestyle that I was trying to create for myself. To be honest, I opted out of it because I saw that if I stayed on that trajectory, I would also be burnout. And I don't purposely want to subscribe to burnout. So that's when the narrative started to shift for me. I saw that it is a culture in the nonprofit sector to make these sacrifices and to work on the weekends and to take calls at 10 o'clock at night. And that is just not a life that I want to live forever. So it is also a privilege to work in this space to kind of combat those practices that are not necessarily healthy for nonprofit professionals.
I love it. And I want to go back a second because I think I made a really fancy intro, but to those listeners,
works on the funding side. She's part of the ones who gives the money. So pay really close attention to her because it's very much a partnership in how and the grant application, way that you build connections. Like, that's my girl Brittney. What you hear is literally, someone on the funding side. We talk about the word philanthropy, like these are the people who, decide, if they're going to fund you a specific project long term. And I think you are in this really interesting, because we also talk about in our sector, and I'm speaking as a nonprofit, like, there are organizations that funders who don't want to pay for overhead or all of these costs. PTO is not overhead. It's like a human right, like rest is a human right. And so like when you talk about a funder who values that, like I think Allegany is a great example of that. And you have led the way. And I know we're gonna get to talking a little bit about sabbaticals and the role that you're playing there. And when we get there, I want to explain what a sabbatical is, but you mentioned generations. You mentioned like kind of the hustle culture that I think we grow up in. We have more to prove. We have more to, and it's harder for us to reach that. When I say us, I mean I identify myself as a woman of color, Hispanic, and it takes a lot to climb to just be in a plane level. So wellness is something I had to learn. It's not just the hustle and bustle. It's not just proving that you have to work harder than the next person. It's also you have to rest as much as you give in.
Yeah, that is so true. And I want to add to that too. Like for me, that same, like I had to learn how to rest and I was encouraged to do that. Prior to working at Allegany, I worked at the health department. And when you're working in government spaces, rest isn't something you talk about. It's not a part of the culture. So coming into Allegany, I was very wanting to always do work and perform and produce things. And I was often guided and mentored to slow down. Like I always wanted to find, okay, what can I do next? What else can I work on? And my coworkers would say, Brittney, it's okay. You don't always have to fill your time with doing things. So being in different environments really allow you to see things differently.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's something I've learned with my career. And also like at the end of the day, you work better and clearer if you're able to take that time. I always say, like, if I'm stuck on something and I get like creative blocks, I'm not a good writer, but I get like creative blocks and like I just go eat something, put on like my favorite show and just like reset and then I'll be like, oh, that's what I need to do. Even like rest has the power to do that and putting that is important. My next question is you talk about even culture change. And luckily you had a boss or, peers who helped you create that culture for you. Or do you think nonprofits get stuck in moving that from like, okay, we'll give you, 15 days PTO, but like actually applying it, making sure that their members are taking it? How do you feel like you can move from just saying it to like doing it?
It's a really good question. And I think so many nonprofits are in that stage right now. I think many folks get stuck in the practice phase as well as it has to be modeled by your leadership. So it's one thing to say that we're going to shift our culture to be more mindful of how we show up at work. But if your leader is doing the total opposite, it won't happen. So I think executive leaders, they have to model that in addition to saying that they want to shift the culture. And then you have to actively practice that. Oftentimes when I'm reading reports, we have a wellness grant program. We're in year 3 of the program. And one of the questions we ask on the report is, what did you learn from this experience? And many of them often say that this was a great initial investment, but now we have to find a way to operationalize this. So I feel like for nonprofits, my call to action or challenge would be start somewhere, but also try to practice that and live that out day to day. So if you receive a wellness grant to do a staff retreat, maybe find time in your staff meetings to talk about it or to figure out what does wellness look like for each individual, because that was something we had to learn at Allegany Franciscan Ministries. Wellness looks different for everyone, right? Someone may enjoy being in nature while someone else may need a nap, right? So it is really important to understand what each staff member needs and try your best to cater to that.
And I definitely want to jump into what is a sabbatical? Like, what is an actual definition? I feel people have this idea that it's just, oh, someone is giving you free time. But I feel like there's so much more to the word sabbatical and what it means. And then I want to know more about what you've been doing, especially at Allegany. And if you have the chance to follow her on LinkedIn, and even I follow Allegany as well, like getting you to announce these leaders working in these really like amazing nonprofits. For them, I'm sure they must have been like, oh my God, does this mean I can actually like don't work? And will the organization be there when I'm not there? Like, I have so many questions, as I'm sure the listeners do too.
That is a really great question to start off with in terms of what is a sabbatical. So sabbaticals are not new. It's not a new concept. But for us, our sabbatical may look different than what another sector may deem a sabbatical to be. But for us, the sabbatical gives our nonprofit partners the opportunity to not only rest, but to restore. And as you mentioned before, having a writer's block. But a lot of our executive leaders are also they have their own executive leader block where they need an opportunity to step away and to find ways to be more creative or come up with solutions to the complex issues that they're having in community. So it gives them, the executive leader, the opportunity to step away and to recharge and come back refreshed. But not only are we focusing on executive leaders, we're focusing on the organization. So we see our sabbatical program as a capacity building tool. It is a way to address so many issues that are happening in our sector, whether it's retention, many nonprofit professionals are leaving the sector. It also helps with succession planning. Many executive leaders by 2027, according to the Florida Nonprofit Alliance annual survey, they're retiring by 2027, but the sector hasn't done a great job with helping that pipeline of new talent to come in and step into those positions. And a sabbatical program can help with that. Right now, we're only starting with 5 organizations, but we are hoping that this will be a ripple effect and other funders will join us on this journey. But we're in our pilot phase of the sabbatical program, so we're purposely learning. There has been so many lesson learned already. Most of our sabbaticals participants take their sabbatical this summer. And we're just really excited for them. So over the last few months, they have been going through executive coaching and wellness coaching to prepare not only them, but their interim leader and their boards for this departure, because it's going to be their responsibility to sustain the organization while they're away.
So you mean to tell me this was not reactive? Like,
data informed us. So the Florida Nonprofit Alliance, and shout out to them and Sabine, who's their executive director, they do a really great job at collecting data, and we use that data to inform the work that we do. So we don't just sit at a table and say, oh, let's design a sabbatical program. We designed this program because the data shows that nonprofit professionals in Florida are burnt out. And we feel like a sabbatical program is a tool to address burnout. So we're not the only funders across the country to offer a sabbatical, but we are the first in Florida. And we're really excited about that because our goal is to influence other funders to join us on this journey. And it starts with just having a conversation about the culture of wellness. So a sabbatical program is one solution, but as I mentioned before, a wellness grant could be another solution, or wellness retreat. So there's different ways to begin the conversation. But a sabbatical program is a really bold move, and people are talking about it. And we're just so excited. Once we get the data and all the stories, we look forward to sharing with our partners, board members, other executive leaders across the state. We have 3 particular audience that we're working with. So nonprofit executive leaders, we're working with board members, which, if I can be honest, they have been the most
challenging group of folks to truly understand what a sabbatical is. They have been resistant and fearful, rightfully so, because again, this is a fairly new concept to this sector, but sabbaticals have been around for a while. The academic space, they offer sabbaticals to tenured professors, but that looks different than what we're aiming to do. But there's a lot of education that needs to take place, and we are striving to educate people along the way because many people see this as a luxury. Like, I get to go away and rest, but many of our nonprofit leaders are not only battling being a decision maker at their organization, but they are caretakers at home. Many of them are dealing with their own health issues, and you don't even know that. They're still showing up at work. And again, this is an opportunity for folks to learn from other nonprofits. Some of our leaders are going to learn from other nonprofits in other countries, and they're going to get some new ideas and bring that back to their organization.
Brittney, I love that you brought up the board because I think for them also, like, now it means that they have to put in the work.
That's it. That's where the fear comes.
Oh, you mean the person who runs everything and I just double check that they're doing what they're doing, like, now is not going to be here. And now we have to make sure that we are, making sure that there's succession planning in place, that we are on top of the stuff that needs to happen. And that oh my God, we need a whole episode on board member engagement.
Board members, oh my, and again, I understand. So boards are very diverse, right? You have a CPA, you have attorneys, you have government officials, like you have diverse individuals on your boards, but most board members, sabbaticals is not something of value in their own sector. So when you're presenting this to them, the reactions I would hear is like, if you go on a 3-month sabbatical and this organization is able to sustain without you, then why do I even need you? And I'm like, oh my God, like the comments that I heard from board members, I'm like, wow, we have a lot of work to do in terms of educating them. Because again, they don't understand the value that this can add for the organization. Not only are you investing in the leaders, but it helps build the capacity of the organization. And our nonprofit sector, our organizations, they need something like this right now. If we want this sector to sustain and ultimately thrive, we need to create bold and innovative programs to keep our individuals in place.
Why do they want the minimum work done? Like 3 months off? Like, no, like that is such a scarcity mindset. Like looking at it like, well, then I don't need you if you're gone for 3 months and we survive, instead of like, I can't wait for you to come back with bigger ideas, like with better things, because you're going to take these 3 months away. And you said something earlier that I didn't get a chance to tackle on, which is like, I've worked in a for-profit tech for good company with a bunch of money. Their retreats are not like our retreats that we take in the nonprofit sector. I'm sorry. Like, there's also such a big difference that they're run with like the cheapest thing that you can do. Like, organizations spend so much money on their annual retreats, and it's where I feel like they even get some rest. They'll give massages to their employees. They'll be like, here's the fanciest suites at this really nice hotel. Just do team building games from like maybe 10 to 2, and then and then have like dinner, like on the house. And it's like, meanwhile we're like, which Wendy's was gonna donate lunch, and I'm just like, no, like we continue to operate in a scarcity mindset, which ultimately leads us to, oh, it'll sustain, but the organization will grow if the leader of the org, who knows the org front and back, gets to go learn new things and gets to bring it back and gets to like have that clear mindset of like, this is what I've been missing. I didn't look at it. I never stepped away long enough to be like, I need to come back and innovate this department, or focus this. And I feel like that's a great way to look at it. I actually want to do one more question, and the last question was to talk a little bit about what is one thing that you would tell the sector, which you can do, but I'm wondering too if you can share examples And you almost did. Like, you talked about one leader going abroad. Can you share more examples of what sabbaticals, and how you're approving that? What do you mean? I want to be able to travel for 3 months and that's my sabbatical. That's how I'm going to rest. Like, tell me more about how you all decided that.
Yeah, good question. So, for 2 years, we were learning and researching before we offered the sabbatical. So we held focus groups and we invited our partners to learn from them. Like, if we were to offer this program, what would you be interested in? And to be very honest, many of them were excited about the idea, but the thought of actually taking a sabbatical was really scary for them. We asked if we offered, like, what would be a good time frame for you if you were to take a sabbatical. Many of them was like, oh, I can do an extended weekend, or maybe I can do 6 weeks. And we were just not thinking, again, we are offering 3 months, but to hear them say like an extended weekend, I'm like, oh gosh, we have to slow down the launch of this program because we have to do some education. And many of them felt that way because they don't know how to rest, right? Many of them was like, well, what would I do on a sabbatical? Like, they didn't even know what to do. Honestly, they couldn't even give themselves permission to dream about all the things they wanted to do. And during our application process, many of them shared with us after the fact that it was such a reflective opportunity for them to finally give themselves permission to dream, because they have never been asked some of the questions about what would you do for 3 months if we were to support you, right? Some folks take sabbaticals, but they don't have the resources to actually do things. So they often just sit at home. But not only are we giving you 3 months, we're giving you resources to go do things. So some of the things we've heard in these sabbatical applications were just so amazing and so exciting. I felt like I was reading people's personal diaries. I'm like, these are things on their bucket list that they wish that they could do. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for many people. But one of our executive leaders, I'm really excited for her. She's going to Spain for 3 months and learning from other nonprofits about what she's hoping to do. Some are taking culinary classes. They have hobbies that they've never been able to tap into, but now they have the freedom and the permission to go explore new hobbies and just to do things that they've only wished and dreamed of. So I'm really excited for those people. And then some people have real life issues they need to deal with. They've been holding off surgeries that they just didn't have the time to do so. So now they have the time to actually go get that surgery done, or to go be a more attentive caretaker for a loved one. So many people are defining this moment in their own way, which is the purpose of this program. It looks different for every organization, but they're doing what's necessary for them. And we're just so excited about that.
You need a full Netflix documentary on this.
And
That's
that's
what I
what we're
want.
hoping to do. Our data process is going to be storytelling. We're doing a documentary, and each executive leader, while they're away, we're giving them prompts to answer before they go, while they're gone, and as they return. And we're planning to compile that into one big documentary. And that's what we're going to use to influence the sector. We realize that the way in which we're investing in this program, the typical return on investment doesn't look the same, right? You're investing in people, so that looks different. So we're hoping to share this documentary with everyone in 2027. And we're just so excited about this.
You see, that's the first thing. I was like, I want to follow this leader in Spain. I want to learn about the nonprofits. I want to follow, my husband just had surgery, so like that's beautiful. Like there's never a right time to do it.
Yeah.
It's something that you continue to put off, and then until your body kind of says no, which is also a terrible way of looking at wellness.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that is also the healthcare system in the United States. But I'm gonna end the conversation with, I actually was curious after you said, some examples. How do you recharge, Brittney?
That's such a good question. I am very intentional about how I recharge. I'm often
the queen of traveling at my organization. I'm always on a trip somewhere. So I travel quite often. I love exploring and venturing out into the world. So at least once a quarter, I try to go somewhere new to immerse myself in a new culture and try new food and speak to people from different cultures. So that is a good way for me to recharge. I always have something to look forward to, and that excites me.
Absolutely. I love airports. People don't understand why. Love the feeling I get of walking to airports, knowing like all of those doors lead somewhere new. I worked at an airline, so I got to learn how standby flies, and like
That's cool.
it drove people crazy. But I love getting the golden ticket right before the door is gonna close. I love that rush. I love the adrenaline. I'm gonna throw a birthday party one day in an airport. I know it.
Love
I
that.
love paying like so much money for really terrible, and I love. Oh, you mean my flight's late? That's fine. I'll go grab another drink or find a plug to work on the computer. But my way I recharge is I go to Colombia. I have to go back to my city at least once a year. It's about to be a year just now. We're trying to go in the summer, but it might not work. The way I feel when my airplane lands in Cali, Colombia is literally like from the moment I feel like everything's going to be okay. And even if I go for a week or 2 weeks, it kind of refills my purpose because I work a lot, obviously, to help my family. I see a world for myself where I could travel back and forth whenever I want. And obviously that takes money. That takes hopefully buying an apartment over there, like doing that. So yeah, going once a year is absolutely like what I need. I go eat. I have a list of like childhood places I eat because I feel like they spark memories when I was 8 and going with my dad or everything. And so food is a way I also like connect with. I go and I order kids meals because that's what I remember eating when I was little, like I still order the same order before I moved to the United States. And for me, that's Cali. Like that is Cali, Colombia, favorite place. Yes, let me know. I'll give you all of the context. Bringing this conversation is exactly, what I think nonprofit leaders need to hear right now, or anybody who works in the nonprofit sector, because, caring for themselves is not separate from the mission. It is the mission, especially when you preach it to the people you help. So to anybody that's listening, go ahead and follow Allegany Franciscan Ministries. And if you want to connect with Brittney on LinkedIn, I just really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's one of the first ones I've done on wellness and nobody better else to do it. I'm super excited for the documentary and I hope to be sharing it all over our socials. Is there an Instagram for Allegany or a website where they can find you?
We have an Instagram, we have LinkedIn, we have Facebook. You can just put in the search box Allegany Franciscan Ministries. But I also want to give a plug out. We have wellness lunch and learns that we offer once a quarter virtually. And our next one will feature all of our sabbatical participants. And they're going to share their journey about prepping their organization for their leave. So if you're interested in that, that will be May 19th, but I'll be sure to share that back with you so that you can share with your audience.
Consider it done. I love it. I want to meet them. I want to know their dreams. And I love that. Part of working in the nonprofit sector is like you have to earn their trust for people to really share what's going on in their minds. Because I always say the first thing that they say is we need money. Really, there's so much underneath that one statement, and it's both personal as professional, organizational. And so the fact that you got to really know what was deep in there, that's also took a big lot of work. Thanks again, Brittney, and thanks so much.
Don't forget to subscribe as well as like this on all of our social media. You can find us on Instagram at Palante Nonprofits and on our website at www.palantenonprofits.com. Gracias.